Chapter 5. Kevin was the first one off the plane. He ran down the enclosed corridor to the airport, toting his dad's shoulder bag. He hadn't seen any of them during the flight. It seemed a little strange, but he hadn't minded a bit. His talk boy was great company. Just inside the waiting area entrance, Kevin turned around to wait for his family. He watched the passengers as they trudged out of the plane. He shifted his weight impatiently. This was getting boring. Where were they? Still in the bathroom? Impossible. When the flight attendants started leaving, Kevin had a sinking feeling. He'd lost them. All 13 of them somehow managed to sneak by without him seeing them. Kevin tried to keep his cool. They had to be around somewhere. He searched through the waiting area, then walked out into the hallway. Left and right, people with down coats jostled against him. He kept his eyes moving, checking out candy stores, fast food joints, pastry carts. No McAllister in sight. Finally, he wandered into the men's room. He could see feet under 2 of the stall doors. He knocked on one. "Dad? Get lost," a gruff voice sparked back. He knocked on the other. "Uncle Frank? Get out of here." That sounded like something Uncle Frank would say, but it wasn't Uncle Frank's voice. He left the men's room. Just to his right, there was a balcony that overlooked the main concourse. He walked over and looked at the crowd below. His eyes darted from face to face. People swarmed around each other like bees in winter clothing. No one else standing still long enough to... Winter clothing? Wait a minute. What was going on? Where were the shorts and sandals? This was Florida. Kevin sped downstairs to the terminal. He went straight to a long high desk and stood on tiptoe. Behind the desk, a woman in an airline uniform was talking on the phone. "Excuse me," Kevin said. "How come it's so cold outside? Isn't it supposed to be in the 70s? And also, I don't see any palm trees or senior citizens in shorts." The woman put her hand over the receiver. "I'll be with you in a minute." "Okay." Kevin stepped down and waited. He glanced around the terminal, watching the people race about. Through the plate glass doors, he could see buses and taxis loading passengers and a hazy city skyline in the distance. Huh? Kevin's eyes widened. This was some skyline. It made Chicago's look puny. Miami couldn't be so big. He stepped back to the counter. I know you told me to wait, but this is an emergency," he insisted. "Hold, please," the woman said into the phone. She turned politely to Kevin. "Yes?" Kevin pointed to the window over his shoulder. "What city is that back there?" "New York," the woman said. Kevin's jaw dropped. "Yikes," he said under his breath. "I did it again." "Is something wrong?" the woman asked. Scratching his head, Kevin looked around. There had to be a way out of this. "Where's Florida?" he asked. The woman pointed to her right. "About 1,000 miles that way." Kevin felt himself go numb. He slowly turned toward the window. Suddenly, everything around him looked way too big, way too scary. "Oh no," he muttered to himself. "My family's in Florida. I'm in New York." New York? It didn't seem so far away. A place you only saw on TV. The Big Apple, the city that never sleeps. Skyscrapers, Radio City Music Hall, the biggest Christmas tree in the world, humongous stores. There it was, rising in the distance like the Emerald City, only dull and gray. And for a short cab ride, he could be there, by himself, with no rules and with all his dad's money. Slowly he began to smile. "My family's in Florida?" His voice rose to a jubilant shout. "And I'm in New York?" He whooped with excitement. This could be the chance of a lifetime. Holding tightly to his dad's travel bag, he ran out to the curb. "Cab, please," he said to a uniformed man. The man didn't even ask questions. He acted as if every 10-year-old boy rode cabs all alone. Maybe they did in New York City, Kevin thought. He already loved the place. "Where to, pal?" the driver asked. "Good question." Kevin thought a minute, then said, "To where the biggest buildings are." The driver shot him an annoyed look. "You mean the World Trade Center?" "Yeah." The cab raced towards the city as if it were the Indy 500. Kevin pressed his face to the window in awe. As they zoomed across the bridge, an overhead tram passed them on the right. Beyond it, apartment houses seemed ready to push each other into the river. Further inland was a slanted-top white skyscraper that looked like a gigantic electric razor, and to the left was the Empire State Building, nestled among the glass giants that glinted in the bright morning sun. Horns blared around them, choppers slashed across the sky, and a tugboat tooted its lonely horn somewhere in the distance. No doubt about it, this was definitely the coolest place in the world, and Kevin McAllister had it all to himself. In the Miami airport, the McAllister family trudged down the luggage carousel. Rain pelted the terminal windows. Each time the electric door opened, warm and clammy air gusted in. On the soggy palm trees outside, red and green cellophane wreaths sagged with the weight of the downpour. A tanned man wearing a Santa Claus outfit with sandals stood by a cauldron, looking at his watch. He half-heartedly rang a small bell and called out in a dull voice, "Christmas is here! Spread the cheer!" The McAllisters stared silently at the conveyor belt as the first suitcase rolled in. It was the size of a small horse. "Okay, here it comes," Mrs. McAllister called out. "Everybody takes their own luggage." With a grunt, Mr. McAllister hoisted the suitcase off the belt. He read the tag, passed it to his wife, and said, "Give this to Kevin." She passed it to Uncle Frank on her right. "Give this to..." Uncle Frank grimaced. I'll have to pass on that, Kate. I have a bad back." Aunt Leslie took it and gave it to Rod. "Give this to Kevin." Rod handed it to Megan on his right. "Give this to Kevin." The suitcase was passed on from McAllister to McAllister. The second to last one was Brooke. "Give this to Kevin," she said, passing it to Fuller. Fuller turned to his right. An elderly couple smiled down at him. He looked past them. No Kevin. He turned back to Brooke and tapped her on the shoulder. "Kevin's not here." Brooke took the suitcase and passed it up to Sandra. "Kevin's not here." As everyone else's bags were passed down the line, Kevin's made its way slowly back up. Aunt Leslie got it from the right, just as Mrs. McAllister passed her a suitcase from the left. "Give this to Buzz," Mrs. McAllister said. Aunt Leslie exchanged it for Kevin's. "Give this to Peter." "Kevin's not here." Then she passed Buzz's suitcase to Rod. "Give this to Buzz." "Kevin's not here," Mrs. McAllister said automatically, as she gave her husband Kevin's suitcase. Mr. McAllister took the bag and gave his wife a blank look. "What?" She froze. Her face became taut with panic. Memories of last year came racing back. "Kevin!" she screamed. The McAllisters raced around the airport in a mad rush. They checked everywhere, but there was no sign of Kevin. Within minutes, they found the airport police office. Mr. McAllister burst in first. "Excuse me, we'd like to report a missing child." Behind a steel desk, a burly policeman sat and put down his newspaper. "Have a seat," he said, "and don't worry, this happens from time to time. Never lost one yet." With a reassuring smile, he reached out his hand. "Name's Officer Bennett. Peter McAllister," Kevin's dad said, shaking Officer Bennett's hand as he sat down. "My son's name is Kevin." "Where did you last see him?" Officer Bennett asked. Mrs. McAllister's face went pale. "Curbside check-in in Chicago?" "I saw him when we came in the door at O'Hare," Mr. McAllister said. "He was in the terminal with us." "Most people get separated at security checkpoints," Officer Bennett said. "Did everyone get through security?" "I don't know," Mrs. McAllister replied. "We were in a hurry," her husband said. "We ran all the way to the gate." Officer Bennett nodded. "When did you notice he was missing?" "When we picked up our baggage here," Kevin's mom said, turning red with embarrassment. "Has the boy ever ran away from home?" Officer Bennett asked. "No," said Kevin's dad. "Has he ever been in a situation where he's been on his own?" For a moment, no one said a word. Finally, Mrs. McAllister said, "Well, as a matter of fact, this has happened to us before." She laughed nervously. "It's becoming a McAllister family travel tradition. Funnily enough," Mr. McAllister added with a chuckle, "we never lose our luggage." Their jokes were met by silence. Mr. and Mrs. McAllister both lost their smiles. Bowing her head, Kevin's mom said, "He was left at home by accident last year." Officer Bennett's stare became icy cold. this is what my wife meant when she said this is a McAllister family travel tradition, Kevin's dad added quickly. Officer Bennett reached for the telephone. We'll call Chicago and notify them of the situation. The odds are that's where he is. It's very unlikely he'd be anywhere else. The McAllister family all exchanged sheepish looks as Officer Bennett called the operator. Clouds whipped by below Kevin. The spires of Midtown skyscrapers seen far away, and where he stood on the observation deck of the World Trade Center. 8 million people. That was how many people were in New York City. The cab driver had said. 8 million, and every one of them on the streets and in the buildings below Kevin. Wow, he said, snapping a picture. He loved being on top of it all, but he couldn't wait to go down and plunge into the heart of it. Sticking the camera back in his dad's bag, he headed toward the elevator. He took one last look over his shoulder at the mass of statuesque buildings and teeming streets. Somewhere in that vast panorama, a battered truck with Illinois license plates snaked through Midtown. In its trailer were 2 men, dressed in poorly fitting clothes. As Kevin entered the World Trade Center elevator miles away, the van pulled up beside an outdoor market. The trailer door opened, and the 2 men slipped out. The first man took a deep breath. Smell that? You know what that is? The second man sniffed, then winced. Yeah, fish. No, Marv, the first man said. It's freedom. And it's money. Marv shrugged at Harry and sniffed again. It's freedom. And it's fish. I always like that part. All right, go ahead and join me for Chapter 6.